All right, welcome back, viewers, to another episode of the 2021 MLB Draft Show. I am, of course, your host, Ralph Lifshitz. Joining me is my co-host, as always, Joe Doyle. We have a very special guest today, another co-host of mine, Brian Sakowski of Perfect Game. Brian, welcome to the show. What's going on, man?
Just excited to have a couple days at home, and it's been a long couple months since we started getting back out on the road. So, definitely excited to get some time at home and to check back in with you guys.
Yeah, Brian has been to every event that's pretty much run over the course of the last few months. All the big events, certainly, PG National and, WWBA that took place at Lake Point, correct?
No, East Cobb.
East Cobb, somewhere in Georgia. Either way.
Legendary East Cobb.
The legendary East Cobb, the EC. But we are sponsored by Smart Water tonight. And Joe, do you have any words you want to say, a wisdom as we jump into the show?
We're also sponsored by San Juan Seltzers tonight. But no, Brian.
All right.
Excited to have you, man. The one thing that I really want to start off with is we haven't had a chance to check Marcelo Meyer and Brady House in person as much. So you're going to get to see him at PG All-American. What should we look for?
Yeah, Meyer, I haven't seen him this summer. He wasn't at National. He wasn't at the WWBA. He's been kind of sticking out on the West Coast. And I haven't had the chance to see him. So the All-American game is going to be the first look of the summer for a lot of people, especially kind of on this side of the Mississippi. But House, I got quite a bit of a look at the WWBA down in Georgia a couple weeks ago, hitting leadoff for Team Elite, who went deep into the playoffs as they usually do, and he had his moments, kind of like as he usually does. It's a couple pretty loud tools, like in the right-handed pop and the arm strength, and he's more athletic than you'd think, given kind of the physicality, and he moves, and it's probably a third baseman. But I think there's a chance he could play short. The issue he had this week, it was just kind of an approach thing. He was an aggressive hitter early in the counts, and he had a lot of weak contact, like first pitch or second pitch swing and ground ball to third, pop up to first. Like there's a handful of those we marked throughout the course of the week, but it's still so tantalizing, man. You've seen him hit for his whole career, and there's so much juice there, and he gets to it in game, and there's a lot to like about that package for sure.
I want to follow up on that really quick, because I've had a couple readers and listeners ask, why is everyone so high on Brady House when we had Blaze Jordan last year and it's a similar skill set? I don't think that's necessarily the case, but can you kind of differentiate the two for listeners?
Yeah, House is a full grade to better athlete than Jordan. Jordan's got a chance to play third and is most likely a first baseman, right? But Brady House has a chance to play shortstop and is seemingly most likely a third baseman. Yeah, it's not really a good comparison for me, because you're talking about a left side infielder, like almost assuredly with some twitch, who can run a little bit, versus a kind of a first baseman type of profile. It's similar right-handed pop, and I think Jordan was a bit more advanced in terms of his hit tool than House was. But similar potential impact offensively.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to transition a little bit here, and I want to ask you about some names that maybe popped onto your list. You guys, you and Vinny do a great job over there at PG. You put out your watch list prior to PG National. You've obviously seen a lot of these guys for at least a year now, maybe some of them even more, depending upon who they are. But who are some names that were maybe outside that top 100 watch list that you guys put out that have sort of pushed themselves into, I guess, what we would call that top 100 list, or whatever you guys have compiled at this point, just in terms of, they really raised their profile with some good performances across a couple of showcases?
Yeah, he may have been on the follow list. He may not have been. But the first name that jumps to mind is James Wood. Regardless of where you had him, a month and a half ago, it wasn't high enough. Like I would say his parents probably didn't have him high enough. Like I think we had that guy in because it was always a projectable follow, and there was interesting bat speed, and he's a good athlete. He's huge. But the hit tool really giant come on this summer. Like he's barreling everything. He's hitting everything hard. His outs are hard. He's walking, like he's taking tough pitches when he sees them and not trying to do too much. And he's hitting home runs and he's hitting the ball the opposite way. He's still just kind of looks that projectable skinny type of build, like long limbed. Kind of narrow waisted still even, but the shoulders are so broad and that guy's got a chance to be huge. And with the power and the bat speed and the hands the way they are now, it's like, whoa, you get kind of excited talking about how much power that guy might have long term.
Yeah. And Woods is one of the guys that sort of definitely popped for me. And here, I'll put you on the spot and let's sort of silo him in based upon just sort of bat. Forget all the other stuff because I know position obviously factors in. We got a million shortstops, but just in terms of bat ability to hit, impact at the point of contact, silo him. Is he top 10 in this class? Top 20?
Well, I mean, are we talking just strictly on the prep side or overall?
Yeah, just on the prep side.
Oh well, yeah, without question. Like I think we're talking about like top handful. In terms of bat to ball overall offensive input.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Vinny and I are still about a month from the first draft list of the cycle. We're going to wait until after the All-American game and then put it together. But I mean, we're going to be aggressive with that guy.
Yeah.
I think as it stands today, like that's going to go way up. I think you can make a case that he is the prep bat. I mean, like as far as just judging by this summer, and I know we have a slightly more limited track record of Wood than others, but I mean, Mahler is up there in that conversation. I think Brady House is up there in that conversation. But I don't. No one's been louder than Wood, like period, like more consistently. I think that's the argument to be made. Is there anybody better than him right now as a prep bat? Well, but we got some stuff coming up. East Coast Pros coming up. Area codes are coming up. The All American game's coming up. We're gonna learn some more quickly here as the cycle continues.
Well, I want to stay on that train a little bit because Ralph and I have been pretty high on James Wood here for about a month or so, ever since PG National, I guess.
Yeah, I think National.
I definitely don't want to shit on any of these kids by any means, but if you're comparing like James Wood to someone that was way more hyped up prior to this circuit, like a Braylon Bishop, how do you kind of compare those two as we move forward?
Well, I mean, Wood's the one hitting the ball on the barrel. I mean, it's far more nuanced than that, but that's really like the way to boil it down. It's Bishop's a similarly tooled athlete. It's not of the same physicality, but the raw tools are somewhat similar, and a guy with pretty violent bat speed. And Wood is kind of similar, but Wood's the one who's been performing. Wood's the one who's hitting home runs seemingly every other at bat and adjusting to pitches and doing that. And Bishop hasn't been bad. Like I don't want to say that. No. He's had a good summer. It's just I think Wood is kind of taken that next step to advance himself.
Well, I want to follow up kind of on the flip side of that. You've been doing these PG events for a while now. Is there someone that you had seen in 16U or 15U over the last few years that has kind of come onto this scene that has maybe underperformed what your expectations might have been this summer, and that maybe we should look for a rebound from?
That's a good question. It's tough because like I don't have such a fundamental knowledge of the underclassmen coming in. Like starting the 2021 cycle, like I knew who the big names in 21 were coming in. Like I had a pretty decent feel for like the top 20, and I'd probably seen half of the top 100 at various stuff. But like, no, man, like I don't think I'd fallen in love with anybody enough to be like, yes, this guy disappointed me. So, I don't know. It's a tough question just because of how little I see the guys until they're seniors.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that over the course of this prep circuit, the arm that's popped the most, just in terms of stuff, came out throwing a different secondary, or had a tremendous increase in velocity or command of a particular pitch from sort of last season to this year? I mean, who's the guy that's really taken that step forward, even if it's from PG National to WWBA? I mean, it's got to be
I mean, Painter's kind of grabbed the mantle as the number one guy.
Yeah.
That's not to say that like he came out of nowhere or like he's a huge riser. Like he was probably at least in everyone's top 3 or something heading into the spring or heading into the summer. But he's kind of grabbed it right now, I think. And like I said, it's in the next month we're going to learn a lot more. But he's been good. The guy who pitched right behind him at WWBA, Irving Carter, was really, really good. The best I'd ever seen him that night. He was a guy who's always kind of been more pitchability than stuff, and he's got the Stroman pitchability with 9 different deliveries and windups, and he throws 4 pitches for strikes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was always like 86, 88, like he was 90, 94 and held it for 3 innings, and the slider's better and the changeup is plus. And it's like, okay, well now we're talking about a little bit different of a guy now. And with retaining the strikes and retaining the pitchability, that's kind of it's a different grade guy, really. So that's one to watch moving forward. I know he's going to be at some of the big events here coming up. He's a guy to watch. I didn't know who Max DeBeck was heading into National. These Joe guys up your way, like, unless I'm at the underclass All-American game, a lot of times like the radar isn't quite there yet. So Pacific Northwest guys, some NorCal guys sometimes, as far as like, well, we all knew this guy was going to be a dude entering his draft cycle, and like I'd never heard his name before.
Yeah.
And DeBeck was kind of one of those guys, like talking to some people after the PG National about him. They were like, yeah, no, this has been coming, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he's been good every time I've seen him. He was really, really good at National. It was, a quarter tick less good at WWBA, but still really good. It's loose and easy and huge and up to 96 and kind of holds 93. And the slider's got a chance to be plus, and there's some pitchability there. And that's a guy who I think is still kind of on the outskirts of the upper rim of the class, but still steadily kind of climbing. I'd be interested to see how he does the rest of the summer for sure.
Well, I have to piggyback off that, Ralph. I got to bring up Malachi. I'd seen Malachi Knight 3 times up here when he was a sophomore, and I was always impressed with his ability to go get it. I had questions about the bat, and it seems to my eye that the bat has really started to move into more of an impact, or at least burgeoning impact. What sort of sense have you gotten from some of the folks that you've talked to? Is he kind of creeping into that, top 3, top 4 prep outfielder of the class?
Yeah, he did nothing but hit, man, at WWBA. He made some loud outs, and like the stat line isn't really as gaudy as like the barrels were, but it's so strong. He's got so much juice pull side, and I think the body's still got some ways to go. And it's just simple, man. Like it's simpler than you'd think. Like the swing, it's kind of got that like unique sort of forward bend, like that forward hip bend, and then he circles into his load and goes, and that's a little bit unique. But from that point, it's very, very simple and very, very direct. And he gets the barrel out, and he can do damage pull side, and he can drive the ball up the right center field gap. And he's a good athlete. You could potentially project him in center field. I don't quite know where I stand on that. I need to see him one more time. But you could see him in center field long term with huge juice, and that right there is a pretty enticing package all the way,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, the one thing that I'm waiting for with Malachi, and I think it's just because of the way that the body has progressed over the last calendar year, is he going to remain in center, or is he just going to grow into a corner, impact bat? So, I mean, in either case, I think he's proving to be a pretty intriguing prospect. I want to circle back really quick on the arms and talk about just pure gasoline stuff, and that's Chase Petty. I mean, just talk to us.
So Vinny and I actually, the night before Petty's start in Georgia, we were looking at each other and we were going over our schedules and deciding who was going to go where and blah, 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 blah. And Vinny, we kind of decided to give Vinny carte blanche over who we got to see because he wasn't at national. So it was kind of giving him that opportunity. And he was like, you know, like, all right, well, I'm going to take Petty at 2:00 over at Aviation or whatever the complex was that he was pitching at. And I decided, like, you know what? No, okay, we're both going to go. Like, I'm going to be selfish here. Like, all right, I'm coming with you. So we double barreled this game. And I said to Vin, I was like, all right, go behind the plate. You know, you can take Petty for the first inning. I'm going to go down the side right now because in the bottom of the first, it's going to be Jay Allen is coming up and Jaden Melendez is coming up and, you know, bats to see. And then, like, Petty threw his first fastball. And, like, just from the side, I was like, that was firm, you know. Like, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I know he can throw hard. And then the second one was like sizzles, you know, it's humid as shit in Georgia. You can hear the seams. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so I finally pulled out like my phone and in the broiling hot sun, I'm like swiping through our Diamondcast software to get to like the box score tracker. And it's like 98, 86 on the slider. And like I look up just in time to see like a fastball up for a swing and miss. And I like wait 15 seconds and it loads and it's like 100. And I'm like, and I like jerk to look behind the plate and Vinny's like staring right at me like, just so I was like, all right, well, I got to go behind the plate now. So like, you know, you go back behind the plate then and elbow your way in and any place else you can't get away with it, but it was a perfect game tournament. So I was like, oh, yeah, no, sorry, I work here. And you know, it was loud. I mean, that's a long, convoluted story to tell you that it was really loud. And the sliders was plus a couple times. It wasn't there every time. But yeah, man, super, super loud. And it's easy. And he's young too. Got a chance. I mean, the video you see on Twitter kind of speaks for itself with that guy.
Right.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys that I think I joked around about it on Twitter where, like, as soon as he came out and, like, he was throwing at that level, I got the text and it was like, oh, my God. Not necessarily that polite or PG, no. but more or less. Who are some of the other guys that, you know, stick in your mind, particularly pitchers, where it's been like as soon as you see him throw, it's like, oh, my God, like this guy's already throwing, you know, X fastball. The secondary is this good. Who's another guy like that besides Petty? Or Irving Carter? I know you mentioned him already.
In this class, like, we haven't found many, like, guys who are that every time out.
Yeah.
Maddox Bruns' national performance was wow. It has not been that since. You know, he pitched in Hoover in front of Vin at the Ultimate Baseball Classic, and then I saw him for a half an inning of what technically I don't think even went down as a game before a thunderstorm rolled in. But I was there. I watched him throw 15 pitches to hitters. So, so anyway, at National, he was, you know, a lefty up to 97 with some funk and deception, spotting it up with a plus slider and like an average curveball, and like he could throw a changeup to a right-handed hitter. And it wasn't fine command, but he was throwing strikes with all of them and missing bats with all of them. And it was like, who and what is that? Like that was good, right? Like sometimes scouting's easy. That was pretty good. And so like that was one that people juiced. You know, like we ran him up the list. I know Baseball America ran him way up the list. Like, damn, that was loud. It was very loud. So then the command hasn't quite been there yet. I saw 196 with a flash of a plus slider, but a lot of sprayed fastballs and a bad curveball. But still, you know, like it's kind of Liam Norris-y if we're talking about last class. Yeah. Big lefty with big stuff. The strikes are a little inconsistent right now, but when it's on, it's like, whoa, you know, loud. So we'll see. A little more consistency from him, I think, would go a long way towards establishing him as one of those top arms.
Yeah, and I think it's the Liam Norris starter kid is what I think you had actually said to me at one point. Two other guys that had big performances at National that I think are sort of interesting, but they're unique analytically in terms of some of the stuff that they throw, but just also in terms of size and all that sort of thing. One is Jackson Jobe, who had a slider or a curveball that was up at 3,000 RPMs, which is obviously very rare. The other guy is Gage Jump, who I think was probably just like, you know, because he's a short, sub 6 foot thrower. I love a short righty. And like, he was my favorite arm at national,
Right.
really, really, I know, Nathaniel Plotz has written about him, but
Yeah.
the vertical flat sort of attack approach angle, gets backspin on the fastball. We've seen the Rapsodo data. It's 100% spin efficiency on that. It's 91 to 93, but I mean, he's got all those sort of like characteristics that analytical teams are chasing right now. He's unique. He's not the kind of guy that I feel like organizations, or maybe even some of the old school organizations, still wouldn't chase. But 10 years ago, a guy like that wouldn't be getting the kind of grades that he is now. People probably wouldn't appreciate him for what he is. But Job and Jump are really interesting arms.
Yeah, and you talked about Jump. Like, I think you broke him down pretty well. It's we're kind of waiting for a plus breaking ball, but it's kind of better every time we see it. At National, it wasn't great. At 17U, it was better than not great. I don't have any doubt that there's going to be an above average breaking ball there. It's just we're kind of still waiting for it to come. But yeah, he plays that up and down game really well from that vertical slot. He's working on that true downer curveball that plays super well off that high fastball. And it's, we've seen it up to 94, and he's a good athlete, and he understands how to pitch. Yeah, man. I mean, it's like a guy that I think you said you're right to say analytical teams might have him a little bit higher than more traditional scouting clubs, but that's a dude who's got a chance to go pretty early next year, given those characteristics.
Yeah, and I think he's fun from the sense that it is unique, and it's almost like Tanner Burns in the sense that he comes out and he'll throw 90% fastballs because the quality and command of that fastball is so elite in comparison, especially to some of the other prep arms, guys who maybe have bigger stuff. But his ability to command that pitch is it's rare for a guy that age. So
yeah, he misses bats with his fastball like better than anybody. He's it's up to 94, like I said, 93, 94 most starts, and then he kind of pitches 91 really up to 92. But he just he'll throw it up, he'll throw it down, he'll throw it up, and then he'll wave to you when you walk back to the dugout. It's pretty good. Like it's very much like, here it is, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm going to throw you a fastball in the strike zone repeatedly, and I'm gonna, the way he pitches is fun to watch because what you're gonna get as a scout, and like when the dude's gonna pound the zone, you pay attention, even a little bit more. Yeah, he's fun to watch.
As far as scouting pitchers in general, there's a lot of couch scouts that are eager to apply a role on someone. This is a guy that's going to go 7 innings. This is a guy that's going to be a closer. At what point in your evaluation cycle are you starting to hone in on what these guys' future roles is? Because Chase Petty is the perfect example.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can have like an opinion, but you're not like finalizing the report yet. Like, you're not even close. I can write in a report like so-and-so shortstop, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z, probably like a 30% chance to stick it short. Like, I can write that in a report, but I don't make up my mind on that until as late as possible, until, next May, if possible.
Yeah.
And like, it's the same thing with pitchers. I can say in a report or like a follow right now, like, 50-50 shot to start. But like, in reality, what have we seen these guys for? A max of like 12 innings?
Yeah.
Something like that. Like, it's not like these dudes go throw 7 at every event. So, it's way too early. You can have hunches, you know what I mean? Like, you can say, like, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, you can have opinions. It's not unfair to say, like, man, I don't know. I kind of feel reliever on this one, guys. But like, you don't like get to have that as like your locked in opinion yet. Like, there's way too long to go.
Another question that I had really quick. We started this off pretty hot with James Wood as a guy that is probably a lot lower on lists than people think. Is there another guy that jumps to your mind that people should be talking about as a potential first-round talent that just isn't on the list where he's supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, Tommy White for us. We're really high on Tommy White as a company. I think we kind of showed that when we released our class rankings not too long ago. Bumped him up to number 9, and all he's done is hit everywhere he's gone this summer. And it's, you mentioned Blaze Jordan as a comparison to Brady House. Like Tommy White's the better Blaze Jordan comparison. It just, it's impact right-handed bat. He's got real power right now. He's got real power to all fields. It's field to hit. He's not a great athlete, but he's pretty solid at third base. Like, believe it or not, I don't, this is one of those things like I just talked about. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, he's not a third baseman. Like, that's absurd to say this early in the cycle. But, like, fair chance he's, in my opinion, that he moves over to first base at some point in his career. But it's got a chance to be a pretty special bat, man. That's what it looks like right now. Like, he's hitting everything, and he's hitting it far and hard. And he, just got that kind of swagger mentality of, like, his entire life's goal is to destroy baseballs. I love that. Yeah, man, like, we're going to be aggressive with him too. I think we've already proven that, but as far as the draft list goes, we'll be aggressive again. I think that's a guy who's got a chance to be a first rounder that's going to have to hit his way there. But definitely has a chance to.
Absolutely. Yeah. White is one of those names that definitely sticks out. So we're all rankers on here. We've all gone through this process of just trying to rank players for this draft. And it's kind of funny to even say this, but because of the shutdown, the lack of, I'll say, concentrated talent wooden bat leagues, because they're very sporadic and split throughout the country. Do you feel like there's an advantage for prep players this year, at least probably from like a perception publicly? I'm sure teams have access to information we don't have. They're going to know things we don't, but doesn't it feel like it's harder to rank college players this year than it does prep? Because at least we've had some showcases and some stuff to dig into and seen the improvement with the players. I mean, because me watching Cody Morissette hit Division III pitching, I don't think it really tells me anything about Cody Morissette.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was having this conversation with Vinny the other day. I was like, dude, he's like, what, we're just doing preliminary talks. Like, yeah, and I feel really good about this, and this, and this, and then really good about this, and this. And it's like, I just said 14 high school players and no college players. Like, I don't know, man. Like, safety a click. Like, we're probably going to roll Kumar at 1. Like,
yeah, sure.
Unless I want to get, creative and make it Jaden Hill because of personal vengeance. Like, I don't know. But it's, realistically, it's probably going to be Kumar at 1.
Some people are going to be mad it's not lighter.
It's going to be a sneak peek into Brian Sakowski's list bias throughout the course of 2021 is I am a huge Jaden Hill fan.
Same.
He's got a chance to be like the guy.
We got to rename this podcast because it's a trio.
We just had Hill on. The last person we talked to was Hill 2 years ago.
3 days ago.
Big fan of Jaden, man. I saw him pitch at
Great
Shriner
interview too
when he closed. Oof. Big stuff, man.
My two favorite players in this draft prior to the interviews were probably, like, on a personal bias level, Jaden Hill and Benny Montgomery. And it just so happens, like, two of the best interviews I've ever done, like, across shows have been Jaden and Benny. I mean, Alex and Ian and everybody else has been tremendous. But, like, they just got a big personality. Like, I feel like we could, like, at Joe, we could have talked to him probably for, like, 40 minutes if you want.
Oh, we could have talked to that guy for 2 hours. He's so humble and down to earth, and he's like he's not this celebrity, and he knows that he has like a mile to go.
Right.
Yeah. He's a cool conversation.
Yeah. He's fun to watch, man. He always has been.
Yeah, and he's just tapping into his potential. He doesn't even have any innings under him. He doesn't even know how to pitch yet. That
was the best thing. So we asked him, like, who the toughest guy he had faced in the SEC, and he was like, honestly, man, I haven't faced anybody. But he was humble, he was honest, but I think the thing that I walked away most impressed with Hill, like, regardless of, like, because we can jump into, like, metrics, we can jump into analytics and the fastball and stuff, but, like, that shit changes. Like, it changes. It legitimately does, guys.
And it's going to.
Like, what Ian Seymour was as a freshman at Virginia Tech versus the guy that the Rays drafted, they were tremendously different. They had some of the same characteristics, but, like, guys get better. Things improve, especially if they have access to more information, et cetera, all that sort of thing. But he just wants to compete. Like, you know, he's the kind of guy, I don't care what role you put me in. I'm going to go out there and, I'm just going to throw piss misses. I don't care.
Right.
Right. And it's great. It's great to hear that from a guy. It's not about like this or that, or I want to be a top 10 pick. He doesn't care. He just get me in the game and I'll do my thing. Those guys.
No doubt.
All right,
I got a question. I got another question on the prep side, and I want Brian to tell me I'm a fool. I think Jordan Lawler is the best pure shortstop in this class as far as like a guy that is certainly going to stick at the position and project with the frame. I think he's a top 15 pick personally. Am I crazy? I'm crazy.
No, I mean, like, I don't know if I'd say he's a top 15 pick. I think you can absolutely make the argument that he's the best shortstop in the class. I mean, I actually, don't know if anybody would argue that. Lawler's kind of established himself as that guy. The one with the best chance to stick in addition to the best offensive profile.
Right. The one that's going to get enough playing time to stick.
Yeah. Like, guy's a really good athlete who hits for power. It's a pretty enticing package. We can really run. Guy's got some size to him too. Yeah, really good player. Top 15, as a prep bat, it's, it doesn't happen a ton, right? I think we're still going to be college heavy. Do I think he's a top 15 talent? Like, sure, probably. I don't know. I just in terms of like, I do think there's always a difference between like what I think a guy's like talent is versus where I think he's going to get drafted. So like, I think that's a guy who, as a byproduct of like prep bat-itis with the college bias in the class, like might go lower than his talent level. But yeah, top 15. I don't really have an argument for that. Having not really lined it up yet, I don't really have an argument against that.
Well, Joe got to talk about some of his local boys, so I'm going to ask for a couple of mine.
Okay.
It's kind of funny, too, because I feel like these are both two-way guys who, in some ways, have kind of almost flipped their profile. Certainly, you can make that case for Jonathan Santucci. I don't think he's a pitcher any longer. I think it's a bat.
Yeah, man.
Even through my PG National, like that was a violent swing. And the other guy's Josh Baez, who I've been steadily impressed with on both sides of the ball just because of how loud the tools are. He throws hard. He's got a big arm. Obviously, outfield. He runs well. When he does make contact, it's powerful.
Yep.
He's a cold weather kid, though. I mean, there's still a lot of rawness there, and probably a lack of reps overall against like top level talent. But talk to me a little bit about those two guys, because I'm hopefully going to be able to see both of them in the springtime if we have.
Yeah, I mean, Santucci was a guy who I didn't really know a ton. I mean, like, I knew the name, knew the general profile, but like, I don't really recall bearing down on him as an arm ever at some point. So like at National, I remember like looking at Jeremy and looking at Jared and being like, we had that guy as an arm? We're like, yeah, listen, 2 years ago it looked different, okay? Like it was like, so yeah, I think it was the general consensus that he's kind of more of a bat now. With left-handed hitter with some hands, and he's got some strength and he's got some power. And I saw him, hit a couple bombs in Georgia, including a huge one in a playoff game. Yeah, it's an interesting kind of athletic corner outfielder with some projection for power type of profile for sure.
He's also a high school teammate of course, the infamous 2023 class #1, Thomas White, big lefty.
White.
I'm going to keep on saying that because I'm excited.
I'm
never going to see him play high school baseball, even though he's from like 10 minutes down the road from me.
That's got to be the best high school in Mass, right, for baseball?
Yeah, I mean
they wouldn't beat St. Mary's, but yeah, I mean, sure.
Probably not. But I mean, unless the Bushes decided to rig it, I mean, that is like a Bush school, so they're definitely connected to the deep state. That's where George W. Bush went to high school, amongst many others. Yeah. Phillips Andover, I'm not sure when I was 18 they would have actually allowed me through the gates.
Me neither. And Baez, like you said, I haven't seen as much. He wasn't at the WWBA, but we've seen him elsewhere. Like our guys in Texas saw him after National. It's like you said, dude, it's intriguing. It's tons of raw pop and arm strength and athleticism, and it's up to 97 on the mound, and 1 out of every 4 breakers is pretty good. Enough to flash it to you. It's kind of Reese Heinze, in terms of that, like, we're not really sure where the hit tool is or what it's going to be, but there ain't no questioning the power. There's no questioning the arm. There's no questioning how good of an athlete for his size he is. Hines was an excellent athlete for his size. He was a great athlete. It was just the hands weren't real good. So that was why the projection was for him to not play the infield. It wasn't that he wasn't a good enough athlete. And Baez, I think, has a better chance to play the infield. But yeah, it's kind of that we need to see it hit. We need to see him hit to fall in love with it. But you could really easily.
I'm going to ask you a question that's kind of off the baseball path. What's this summer been like for you, man? Because you're going to all these events. You got this pandemic that's, taking over all the headlines. Masks are required some places. They're not required in others. I mean, what's it been like traveling and going to all these events and having to deal with it?
I mean, it's mask on everywhere, man. Pretty simple. I don't know if this is the place for me to get angry and political. I'm in the wear a mask crowd. I'll put it that way. So that's even as, dozens of people crowd inches from me behind backstops. Most of them not bothering. I'm wearing a mask. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it is, man. Just put the mask on. It's not really that hard. The fishing mask that you pull up over is comfortable. It was 100 degrees with 100% humidity in Georgia every day, and I survived, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I wear a mask. I try to stay away from people when
That's fair. That's fair.
And I was like,
down to a mask.
we're going here, Joe.
Well, I just want to know. I mean, it's such a different summer. I mean,
it is, man.
As far as just baseball goes, like taking in a baseball game is just different. So I wanted to know.
Yeah, honest to God, the weirdest part is there's no college coaches on the road recruiting. That is the weirdest part. Not seeing those dudes, like not spending 16U, kind of pretending to watch a field during a time slot because you're engaged in a conversation with these 4 college pitching coaches. Like that's what I miss the most, honestly. And we had scouts at 17U and we had scouts at national. It's not nearly as many as it used to be, obviously, but they were still out. There's no college coaches. It's wild. It really is. That's been the weirdest thing. There's been some JUCO coaches out, and we've seen those guys, and we've seen some NAIA coaches out, but not having the throng of 25 Power 5 schools with radar guns behind a home plate, watching the rising junior uncommitted lefty who's up to 88, and we heard there might be a 91 in there, so we're here to check it out. Like not having that. Like it's weird. It's wild. It was wild to like get all the text messages saying like, "Hey man, looking for lefties in that class. Let me know." And you can't say like, "What are your legs broke?" Because they can't. They can't go on the road.
Right.
So it's like the rush to like send me a text after I send a tweet that's hashtagged uncommitted. Like, what do you got? I'm like, read the tweet. But, it was just weird. It was weird in that sense. We've kind of gotten used to the masks. Like that's obviously the weirdest thing, but we've gotten used to it. The no coaches was the weirdest, man.
There you go. All right. I'm trying to think of some more questions to ask you now that we've already covered the really difficult ones. And I've gotten my hometown boys in, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've hit all the high notes in terms of big names in the class. Joe, any other names you could think of off the top of your head you really wanted to hammer Brian on? I mean, you covered White, you covered Wood, you got your local guys, I got my local guys. We've already seen him talk to Alex on camera. I won't put him on the spot. Make him break down Alex Mooney or Luke Leto. You get in trouble every time you talk about Luke Leto anyway, Joe, so I'm not sure I want to do that. So like we don't get beat up by Leto.
Can't win. No, I mean, I guess my last question would be, it seems like a little bit of a step back year on the prep arm side as compared to 2020, I guess, with the 3 first-round arms. How many guys would you say have first-round grades on them right now? I assume Painter is pretty close.
Yeah, I've been having this conversation with a couple people like over the past few weeks, and it was like, take the 3 first-round arms of last year the prep arms, Kelly, Abel, and Bitsko. And, like, is there anyone in this class you would take over them as far as arms? And, like, you can hem and haw and say, like, yeah, I like Painter than this guy, or, like, yeah, I like Painter better than this guy, or whatever. But, like, I don't think Painter is better than all three of them.
Yeah.
I think depending on how you view it, he's maybe better than one or two, but I don't think he's better than all three. And so in that sense, like, that's the number one guy right now here, slam dunk in 2021. Like, right now, that's the dude. And if we're saying that there's a chance that he's maybe not better than any of the three last year, like I said, it's kind of fluid depending on how you look at it. Then that's kind of a concern. Even at the top dog is like, he's probably the one in the tier, but then even still, that's only one. And after that, it's there's been some inconsistencies. Like Chase Burns has thrown really, really hard, but had some inconsistencies. Maddox runs, like I said, and it's just DeBeck's been good, but not. He hasn't been Mick Abel.
Right.
Like, that's just if we're looking at that comparison, and they're two kind of similarly geographed guys. There, DeBeck at National was like flashes of Abel, but it's not Abel. It's kind of what I'm saying. So, like, as good as he is, and as big of a DeBeck fan as I am, I don't think it's quite on that same tier as last year. Now, again, ask me again in a month, man. Like,
yeah,
we still got to get some pretty important looks here. But yeah, I think it's a little bit lacking in terms of high end as well as maybe in terms of depth.
I think the draft overall is just not close to not only 2020, but 2019, 2018. Like, amongst those sort of four drafts, how does this class stack up? It's obviously really, really early, and we have some unique circumstances around it. But outside of like a handful of guys, I feel like, I don't know if I like it more than either of those classes.
Yeah, man. Like, I would love to answer you. We just talked about it, dude. I don't know enough about the college class, man.
Yeah.
Like, Vinny and I are going to I feel awful about it. Like, like, I'm not captain, like, I'm not like Captain Hardass where it's like, you can't possibly rank a guy unless you've seen him. Like, you can't use sources. That's not how a scout does it. Like, I'm not that guy. But, like, I like to see most of the guys. Yeah. I like to, when we put our list together, like, it makes me feel better when we as Perfect Game have seen 94% of the guys we have on or whatever the hell it is. But, like, I'm going to be, with the college, I'm going to be like, hey, calling my scouts friends and sources and contacts and the guys we used to do the list and calling them and being like, hey, man, like, rather than me voicing my opinion, them agreeing or disagreeing, us talking about it, and then me settling, I'm just going to be like, bro, what do I do with this guy? Because I have no idea. Like, hey, do you have any fifth rounders out there that I surely have not heard of? That's some mid-major, like that. It's going to be a lot of that, and I hate feeling that blind. But we just, haven't had that opportunity this summer.
We were talking. Ralph and I were talking about that. How you're going to have to pack up your pride this year and just not be afraid to lean on people.
Oh no, there's going to be a lot of. I've already texted some of my best friends in baseball. I've been like, boys, get ready. Like, you ready to talk every night?
Group effort.
Are you ready to talk every night? Call me whenever you leave a game in the spring and tell me what you saw. Like, call me before you call your wife to say you're on your way home.
No, it's serious.
Did you just turn in a JUCO kid in the 22nd round? I need a phone call. Like, that's what it's going to be like.
I would know the college class, so well right now.
Yeah.
Like, to the point that, like, I could rank 100 guys in the Cape, like, off the top
of my
head, and then maybe pick myself apart. Like,
yeah,
I got none of it. I'm going to get a second game tomorrow. I should get our good cousin Sal Frelick. Should get him probably tomorrow. That's what the hope is. No rainouts, anything like that coming through. But I might have an opportunity to see him and Zach Geloff's brother, Jake. So awesome. There you go. Did I even get my Geloffs right?
You got it right.
I did.
Yeah. There you go. Awesome. So, yeah. But, I mean, like, in a regular year, I'd be going to the Cape tomorrow to see a playoff game. You know?
I know.
It wouldn't be the regular season any longer. Like, the summer would be over,
Yeah.
But,
the only information I'm getting privy to is just, the guys I know at Oregon State, the Pac-12 guys I got. But, like, everything on the East Coast that I would ever get information from other people from. There's nothing out there.
I wish I was way more aggressive chasing the freshmen like last spring, like in ACC games, and the same in the Cape. I would have gone to way more NECBL games and future games to get those freshmen. I was like, I took it for granted. I was going to get all those juniors. I was chasing Nick Gonzalez and Daniel Cabrera, and
I'm happy Vinny because Vinny saw Miami this year and went hard on Del Castillo and. Yep. I saw LSU and went on Aiden Hill because he, didn't give me a choice.
I blew off.
So I'm happy we had
games last year where I would have gotten tons of video of Del Castillo. I would have gotten 2 homers too, and I blew it off because I was like, I'll see him next year.
Yeah, idiots, all of us.
Yeah, we didn't know. What are you gonna do? All right, Joe. I don't want to keep Brian too long. We've gone 45 minutes now. Probably a good time to wrap this sucker up. Any last questions you got taped to the desk before we send Brian on his merry way?
I got nothing, man. Brian, you're a hero. Keep doing the Lord's work.
Appreciate it, fellas.
It's going to be live from the NEBC next weekend with your boy. So
coming in hot from Northborough, Mass.
Exactly.
Northborough.
Hometown of Ralph Lifshitz. All right, guys. Thanks for another week. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the 2021 Prospects Live MLB Draft Show.